Hello, friends. My name is Nate Jones. Today, I want to have some fun with you today. I want to talk to you about Gangster. Gangster. Loving Father, I thank you for your kindness and your mercy. Thank you for this moment in time that we can talk, we can speak, and we can have you speak to us through these words. Keep us in your love, for we ask in Jesus' name. I want to talk to you about Gangster. When you look in the dictionary for the meaning of gangster, it is clear that to be gangster is to be a member of a violent gang of criminals. That thug life. I've always been fascinated with gangsters in the sense that from the time that I was a young boy, the so-called freedom to come and go as you please, the freedom to do whatever you wanted, and to be associated with power. The gangster life was attractive until I ran into God. And God introduced me to another life. When God came into my world at the age of 16, He did it in such a way that He turned everything that I believed upside down. The first thing God did when He came to me, I read in John chapter 15 and verse 20, it says, "Remember the word that I said unto you, servant is not greater than his Lord. If they persecuted me, they'll persecute you also. Because if they kept not my sayings, they're not going to keep yours." So in effect, what Jesus was saying to me is that, Nate, if you're going to follow me, excuse me, if you're going to follow me, you need to count the cost. And that was peculiar for me because I'm like, well, Lord, who's going to disobey you? Who's going to, I don't understand. And God knew my struggle, so He reiterated it in a different way. Matthew chapter 10 and verse 34, it says, "Think not that I am come to send peace on the earth. come not to send peace, but a sword. I said, Jesus? Is that you? He kept talking. In verse 35, he says, for I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Jesus goes on to say, a man's foes shall be they of his own household. And I'm like, really? I've been serving God since I was 17. I'm 62 now. I have not only seen these words, but I have participated in them. When I stop and think about the God that I serve, I came to the realization that the gangster life, the thug life, is nothing more than people wanting to be God. A gangster is a wannabe God. That's all they are. That's all they will ever be. They want to prize themselves with the fact that they make rules. And they want to be able to say to any and every one, your rules, they don't apply to me. Gangster. But in effect, they want to be God. But when God took me over to Isaiah chapter 45, and he whispered these words in my ear, he said, and verse 5, I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me. And let me just pause for just a brief moment here, because this is so sweet on me, so delicious on me, because when I stop and think about how many things that I passed through even before I knew God, I can honestly say that I can testify that he girded me, even though I didn't even know it was him who was doing the girding. Well, don't let me get happy right now, because you may not like me if I get happy. But he goes on to say that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. No, I'm not a thug. Neither am I a gangster, because, to be honest with you, there's no rules that I make that others should follow. I can't even make rules for myself that will follow them. Even the things that I would do for myself, I don't even have the power. The good that I would do, I don't even do that. So how can I make myself a criteria for others? No. I settled within myself that I can't be a thug. nor can I be a gangster because I ain't got that type of juice. And for those of you who aspire to that life and you feel that you got that life together, you can go and have that life because, yeah, I'm prepared to be a servant. And just in case your laughter reaches a pitch because I say I want to be a servant, here's where God settles the score for me. In verse 7, he says, and I form light. I create darkness. Just stop and let's pause right there before I close for just a brief moment. We know that the devil, who is the number one gangster there is outside of God. Yeah, and I classify God as gangster. But the devil is called the prince of darkness for a reason. Because God himself says, I create darkness. That darkness that he dwells in, I created that. I make peace. I create evil. Now you say, oh, wait a minute. A God of love creating evil? There are so many people that can read so many things into this. How can a God of love create evil? Well, I mean, you're handing out questions toward God. Why not go further and say, well, if God is so good and he's got so much power, why did he allow my mother to die? Why did he allow my sister to get raped? Why, if he's all that in a bag of chips, why this and why that and so on and so forth? And then God ends it all by saying, I, the Lord, do all these things. What am I saying? I've been serving the Lord since I was 16 and a half. I'm 62 now. And I'm flat out telling you, my God is gangster. He sets the rules, and he will tell you to your face, to disobey my rules, I call it sin. And I hate sin with a perfection you can't even begin to imagine. Now, you don't have to be my servant if you don't want to. That's fine. I give you that right. But just know this. I am the Lord, and there is none other. In closing, drop down, ye heavens, from above, and let the skies pour down righteousness. Now you see, wait a minute, that don't sound like righteousness to me. How can God be considered a gangster and be righteous at the same time? When you understand the love of God and you understand God's hatred for unrighteousness, then you begin to understand who God is and what God is about. The reason why I serve the living God is, number one, his choices for me are better than my choices for myself. Oh yes, I've had to be homeless for many years. But in my being homeless, I had him walk beside me and talk beside me and remind me along the way that I am his own. Some people say, well, if God is so powerful, why were you homeless? When you understand the relationship that God is offering you and God is offering me, you understand the promise that he gave in Romans 8:28. He says, I cause all things to work together for good, even the evil that I create. The gangsters of the world are wannabe gods, because rather than being a servant to God, they tell God to his face that none of your rules apply to me. But one day, God will show up. And when he shows up, it's going to be a problem. In verse 9 it says, woe unto him that striveth with his maker. You want to know why I call God Gangster? Verse 9 says, woe unto him that striveth with his maker. Now, you don't have to serve God if that's not what you want to do. You can go ahead and be like every other gangster there is and make up the rules as you go along. Play the game of cat and mouse with fear as well as you can play the game. But just know this. Woe unto him that striveth with his maker. Let the potsherd strive with the potsherds of the earth. Shall the clay say unto him that fashioned it, what makest thou? Or thy work he hath no hands? Keep up and belong with your thugdom. Be gangster all you want. But when face to face with he who is God, see if you can tell him to his face his rules don't apply to you. And let me know how that works out for you.